The difference between light and electricity is that electricity has mass, and light is massless. And the shape of light in motion, the way that physicists draw it, is basically a pyramid and then a pyramid. Basically like a point and then a point on the other side. The foundation of all matter, the shape of that is essentially a Merkaba. So if you take that shape of the light with the pyramid and the pyramid and you push them together, you can't really do it because I've only got one hand because I'm holding the phone with the other. You push them together and you take those two pyramids and you push them down into each other, then you have the Merkaba. I looked up the etymology of electricity, and electric actually comes from the word amber, which I think is interesting, that electric actually comes from a color. And if you actually look what amber is, it's 4 parts gold, 1 part silver, is sort of how the ancients defined the color of amber. Gold has always been revered on the planet. Can I remote view? Somebody just asked. I don't actually think I've tried for real. But I do know somebody that worked for a military of another country in Europe, and his job for the military was to be a remote viewer. And right now he's a high-level, he got out of that, he's a high-level human design person. But the military definitely uses remote viewing. There's a CIA document on it as well, which I'm going to dissect sometime in the next few weeks. They went and investigated the Monroe Institute. And Robert Monroe is the person that brought remote viewing to the CIA and taught them all how to do it. And then they started using it for military operations. How to be thankful when you are alone. That's actually a good one. I'm wondering why I'm out of breath right now. It's probably because I've been laying in bed for 2 weeks. This is one of the first times I've actually got out and walked in the light and on the earth. My system's been upgrading. Okay, how to be thankful when you're alone. Actually, we actually need to learn how to do that in order to be thankful or happy or alive in any other capacity. We can't do those things when we're alone. Then adding another person, another thing into the mix isn't going to make us thankful. If we're reliant on other things, then we're using them like a drug. We're addicted to them. And we just want more to satisfy what? To satisfy the void that we feel alone. So in order for a person to progress psychologically, emotionally, mentally, in any capacity, we must be able to do it in solitude, by ourselves, without external inputs. When we learn how to do that, then we're able to use the external inputs as a spice, as a flavor to our own internal locus of control, which is going to be stabilized, in this case, what Zanny was asking, in a grateful position, in a grateful state of being. So the question is how to be thankful when you're alone. If you have difficulty doing it, then that means be alone more. and figure it out. What are your thoughts on India? I don't know what that question means. What are your thoughts on twin flame? I don't know too much about that to comment right now, but it's interesting because everything seems to have an opposite. And I wouldn't, again, necessarily think that that's going to be within another person per se, but within all other things that we're viewing outside of ourselves. And another person is facilitating that experience for you, but so is your drive to work, and so is your morning walk, and how your breakfast tastes. All of that are the opposing forces to your nature that give you an experience of life to contrast against and to observe yourself through in opposition. How to cut the energy that unites me with my ex-partner from many years ago. I still feel what he feels. Yoga Angel. I'm assuming that you're female, and females actually retain the energy of the males after sex for much longer than the males do after having sex. I'm trying to remember, from a yogic standpoint, males retain the energy of their partner for 48 hours. And females, I believe it was 7 years, something like that. So you're going to feel the energy of your partner who's penetrated you and intertwined energetic DNA. Like, there's actually literally pieces of him inside of you that are floating around your body. And there's studies where they take cells from people and they stimulate the cell or they stimulate the person, and there's essentially the exact mechanism happening. So if they take a piece of hair and they cut it off, and then the person develops a disease 6 months later, then you can actually see the signature of that disease within the hair that was cut off. They've taken cells from people, and then the scientists that the cells were taken from go to an airport and get all stressed out, and you actually see that the cells get stressed out while the person's in the airport. So if there are cells from another person inside you, even energetically intertwined with you, then you're going to feel what they feel, which is what the question is about. Now, a solution is, I feel, found in a ceremonial act. And you can do ceremonial acts such as cord cutting or just taking a piece of selenite. If you go into a crystal store, you're going to see a whole bunch of selenite, and sometimes they're shaped in swords, and you can use selenite or even your own hands just to cut the cords. There's kriyas where you do this in front of your heart, which symbolically allow you to cut the cords. I should say ceremoniously, not symbolically. And this is essentially going to be yourself tuning your instrument, because we are sort of like a liquid crystal. All of the cells within us can take program. And if you've got other programs running, then it's essentially you do have power to reprogram those inputs. What's a remote viewing? A remote viewing means that you can view from a remote location. So I can be in one place on Earth, and I can be viewing with my internal mind, my internal eye, another location on the planet. Do you think it's hard as fuck to work in this reality as a manifester? Do I think it's hard as fuck? What I think, my gnosis on this, is that we're all manifesting in every single moment. So is it hard as fuck to work in this reality as manifester? Is it hard to manifest? No. Somebody's walking up behind me. Let's go up here, Celestine. There's just a realization. So the way that manifestation works, so the way that we typically think about it, is that we manifest something of our desires. And the only thing, the only question, the only obstacle in our way of that is, what are we manifesting? So manifestation isn't a question of if we're doing it or not, because we're all constantly doing it. It's a question of how able are you to recognize the control that you have over it? How able are you to recognize that your hands are on the steering wheel? And then how able are you to turn and manipulate that steering wheel and recognize that you are doing that? Because that takes responsibility. That takes us realizing that everything that's happening around us on this planet is a result of us. What's up? Going good.
Herpes, I was thinking about doing that.
You got to do it, man. It's actually really soft up here in some spots. Are you going all the way to the bench? Yeah. Just take them off there. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Take care. So, he commented on the fact that I'm barefoot. Do you think it's hard as fuck to work in this reality as a manifester? It's not that it's hard. It's literally our responsibility to recognize it and to control it. People keep on asking what remote viewing is. I'm trying to think of the CIA document. I can't, but I'll dissect it soon. All right. What other questions do we have? I see questions in the question thing, but I'm right now just trying to get through the comments. Monroe Institute, we'll check it out. Glad you're feeling better. Being alone is important to rely on self. Yeah. So it's also just a phase, right? Ra, when it comes to building muscle, what are your go-to workouts? So I actually don't work out. I was swinging on that pendulum to that side of reality since I was like 17 to, I would say 35 years, 36, 37 years old. So about 15, 20 years exercising all day, every day, thinking that that's the foundation to health and wellness. I even had businesses. I own gyms, and I started to prove to myself, because there was fitness competitions, and I got really injured because I played hockey and I was a fighter. So my shoulders and wrists and ankles and knees and pelvis, they're all out of alignment. There's dead nerves in there. There's muscles that literally don't work. I've got injuries from that, compensation, sort of like overcompensation injuries. If something on my right side doesn't work, then my left side overcompensates. Then my left side gets injured. Then that quits working, and then my right side gets injured. So that's going on all over my body. So I quit working out, and I suddenly started realizing that working out wasn't the answer to winning competitions. So I wouldn't work out for like 10 months, and I would show up at a competition versus my own clients and 100 other people, or maybe 300 other people, and I would win the competition. And I would ask myself, how is it possible that if I'm not working out, that I'm winning these competitions? And so I really had to dissect and research and figure out, because in the sport of CrossFit, what we're doing is we're measuring power. And the way that they define power is force, or power equals force times distance and the amount of time that it took you. So they had a mathematical equation. Power equals force times distance over the amount of time that it took you. So if I deadlifted 400 pounds 10 times. That's the force that it took to lift the 400 pounds. So force times distance. The distance would be from the ground to me standing up. Force, 400 pounds times a trackable distance. And then if it took me 1 minute to do that, then that's the time. If I did that same 400 pound deadlift in half the time, so let's say 30 seconds instead of 60 seconds, my power would be double the amount. And the entire sport of CrossFit is essentially founded on that equation. Force times distance over the amount of time that it takes you to do it. So now what I had to extract is how was I able to increase my ability to express power if I was not training? Because my whole foundation of how you express more power is you are able to generate force because of adaptation. And adaptation means that I would have to do things like deadlift, run, jump, train all day, every day, so my body would adapt and get stronger. So what I was starting to realize is that my body was somehow expressing power without me going through progressive overload adaptation. And how was that possible? Where's the power coming from? And so what I found is that throughout all time in history, all cultures revered, respected, and basked in the elements, what they called the elements. And sometimes it's 4 elements, sometimes it's 5 elements, but the elements are usually defined as, as fire, earth, water, air, and if there's a 5th element, it is ether. The Taoists, they have elements such as wood and metal, and they think about energy coming in the body through a little bit different pathways, but essentially it's nature. We are nature, and our ability to express the power of nature is dependent on how resonant we are with the flow of energy from these elements. And if we have blockages in our body, those blockages is going to slow down that energy. And so what I realized is that what I was doing while I was injured and I was working a lot at the gym was I was going to Santa Monica Beach and I was hanging out in the sun next to the ocean and basking, harmonizing in the elements, in the light, in the earth, in the air. And I was covering ether, which is essentially the map of all of the elements, like what puts it together. I was covering that through intention. I identified as a winner, but only to a certain point. And that's the interesting thing. I wasn't winning millions of dollars a year because I didn't identify that. I identified as somebody who was injured, but I did win tens of thousands of dollars through professional physical competitions. I did stand on top of a lot of podiums. I was able to position myself in the top few hundred people out of literally millions of people in the sport over the course of 6 or 7 years that I was competing without training like everybody else was training. And then I got curious of, is there a way to use this power outside of the physical fitness field? Can I manifest? Can I create wealth, the same wealth that I was doing, owning a gym, working all day, every day? Can I create a life that felt as wealthy, felt as luxurious, felt as comfortable without working? I asked myself all sorts of questions. Will women date me if I let my hair grow out and my face grow out and I don't have money? Yeah, it's crazy what I found out. That was a long question to to what do I do for workout? Long answer. I'll look at some of the questions. Also, exercises to last longer in bed and build up your sexual energy. Guys, I really like the human garage fascial maneuvers. And if you actually start looking at what's going on in the exercise field, you're going to start seeing there's a lot of basically twisting in opposing directions. And the human garage facial maneuvers do that in a way that combines breath and then also stabilizing your pelvis. And stabilizing your pelvis essentially are the PC contraction muscles. So in yoga, in Kundalini yoga, if we do something called root lock, you're actually locking the muscles of your anus, your sex organs, and your navel point. And if you're doing these twisting motions, you're allowing the energy to flow through your body from the root up to your higher centers in a way that is clean, and you're contracting those sex muscles. And so when it comes to lasting longer in bed, first of all, you need the tissues clean and working and not stagnant. So that's one thing. I interviewed 5 experts on testosterone. So if you look up the YouTube channel, Subject Matter Experts Show, you will see a whole bunch of tips, and I'm going to call them tips and tricks, but they're really just ways of being that increase testosterone. Testosterone is necessary also to keep it up. Probably the most important thing. So making sure to pay attention to your testosterone. Testosterone is not just taking herbs or doing certain exercises. A lot of it has to do with mindset, how you identify as a person. And a lot of that has to do with, are you living your best life? Are you pushing the boundaries? Are you competing? Because if you look into the animal world, if you look into the human world, because we are animals, a lot of the need for hormones are dependent on competition, right? And so we don't have to necessarily compete with others. We can compete with, we can compete with ourselves, constantly pushing past our limits are just good enough. Do you know anything about health practices, cures, remedies, etc. on healing, curing diseases such as HIV or herpes? So that's a difficult one, because that's going to be one that I'll refer to yourself to go through and make sure to research about what viruses are. And I feel that we all have HIV and herpes in us at all times, but our body's regulating them. And so our ability to keep that regulation is what's going to keep us from the effects of the negative effects of these viruses. And so keep on researching. I don't have the capacity to answer right now on this live. Do I have an experience with parasite infections? It's the same thing. We have parasites in us all the time. Parasites are actually a function of a healthy environment. If you go into nature and you find a body of water that's completely sterile and doesn't have anything living in it, then it's likely that body of water is unhealthy. So within ourselves, we do have parasites. Some of them are helpful. It's just when they get overloaded in and off balance that it becomes negative, meaning it's taking too much from you. The concept of positive and negative is amazing when you actually look at what positive and negative is, because positive and negative are technically neutral terms. Positive means to give, negative means to take. And so, so positive is penetrative, it's masculine, it's giving, it's light. Negative is feminine, it's the void, it's dark, it's receptive. And so if you are too much of one or the other, If you're too masculine, too positive, you are penetrating into the world and you are forcing others to sort of harmonize to your field, which can be useful. And if you're too negative, then that means that you're taking too much, you're receiving too much, you're sucking in too much. And so when you really dissect down positive, negative, masculine, feminine, light, dark, you'll see that it's all just a neutral thing. But how we associate those behaviors within our world and our laws and our limited resources, it becomes a different thing. We have positive association with the word positive, and we have negative association with the word negative, even though they're actual neutral terms, neutral states of being. It's our story that we put around it. Thoughts on our current status of collective awakening. So some of us woke up just recently. Some of us have been awake for a while. And those of us who've been awake for a while, 2006, 2010, 1990s, which I wasn't in the 90s, but some of us who are older maybe would have been. There's always been this concept of it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that's exactly what's been happening. That's exactly what we've been manifesting. So I feel that we're right on track of what we've all been creating. We've all been intending on the system to burn down. And that's what we're seeing. We are cosmologically, I just did an interview. Look up the interview that I did with Chris Witecki last Monday. And he said that all the planets that the same planets of the Civil War, I believe World War I and World War II, they're all coming into the same alignment as they were during those wars, right before those wars. So I believe it was World War I, World War II, and the Civil War. It might have been different wars, but cosmologically we're coming into the same planetary alignment over the next 6 months. So over the next 6 months, we're likely, if you guys know about the cycle science, which is that the energies of the world continuously cycle because of the relationship to the planets, and we as a collective species go through the same energetic cycles in life collectively. We're going through the same cycles of that we were in through wars. Hello. Solar, be nice. Yeah, you too. Have a good walk. All right, what else we got? So, collective awakening, we're going through, if you guys look at where we come out of those wars, there's progression, right? So there's sometimes we go, yeah, it's all a cycle, which is an amazing thing. Hold on, there's another dog coming on without, hey. So, be nice. Be nice. Thanks. You too. All right, next question. Next question. 100%. I am in this realm since 1962, and since birth, I am a miracle, literally. Yes, I am responsible. C.A. Hawk Art. Thank you for that reflection. The CIA doc on remote viewing is on WikiLeaks. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. And you can just literally Google CIA remote viewing or CIA Monroe Institute PDF. If you guys are looking for docs or scientific studies, usually just put the word PDF after what the title is, and then you'll find it. Sometimes you have to pay for it, which is, do we do CrossFit anymore? No. Just explained that a few minutes ago. People are asking about my necklace. Thoughts on semen retention. Again, I feel like you should try it and go through that cycle, that phase, and use your own science. It's definitely a dogma that a lot of people have expressed, which I think is good. We should all be talking about our experiences. Thoughts on getting COV? I've never heard of that. Snake venom poison. I wonder if there's a place I can show you guys some maneuvers. George Braden, yep, that's a good one. How often is too much to ejaculate as a 36-year-old male? Serious question. What creates more sperm? So there's a Taoist, I would refer to the Taoist equation on this. I believe 36 years old equates to around once a week is how the Taoists say that we can replenish the life force lost during an ejaculation. What do I think of UAP's unidentified aerial phenomenon? So the whole extraterrestrial thing. So yeah, the whole extraterrestrial thing is it's just very real, and people's experience of it is going to be dependent on their awareness, just like manifestation. When we think about aliens or extraterrestrials, a lot of us are thinking about like how it is in the movies, where we wake up in the middle of the night and then all of a sudden there's an alien creeping under our bed, and it's like this physical thing. It's like our dog, but it's an alien from another planet. And my understanding of everything is that it's most likely going to be interdimensional, and they are around us all the time. And as we ascend through our dimensional states of being, we become aware of what have always been around us, which are these entities that operate in reality differently than we do. So we are essentially third density beings. We are in individual physical bodies, and we experience life as individuals through linear time. So we have the veil of linear time. Veil meaning that we can only sense the current time, the present moment, and we travel through space. So I'm moving right now through space. Time is a consistent, ever-evolving present moment. That's our perspective as the beings. Hey, Solar, come on. As the being that we are. The next dimension, the next density, I should say, up, which is essentially meaning that we lighten in frequency, we become able to perceive more than just our individual self. So right now we're perceiving our individual selves. If we become greater, higher frequency, then we can perceive other people's perspective And that's already happening on this planet. It's already happening as people birth children. They're aware that the children have sensation of other lifetimes, other beings. Hello. Hey. Nope. Take care. So that's an example of how we shift awareness through different states of consciousness. So we become aware of more than self, as opposed to just aware of self. Another way that we can shift awareness so an example of that would be an empath who can feel another person's emotions, right? And then the ascendative example of that would be somebody who knows what another person knows, a psychic, all right? So we're all individuals, and we're all in the phase of individualism because we're all different parts of the same machine, right? So we're like leaves on a tree. We're all living as individuals, but we're all a tree collectively. And at some point, the leaf will begin to be aware of the tree, okay? And when we do that, we become aware of the leaf next to us, not as another leaf, but as self. And that's what an empath is feeling. They're feeling the emotions of another. That's what a psychic is knowing. They're knowing the thoughts of another. Now, we collective as a species are going through this technologically. We're developing technologies that allow us these capabilities, right? That's what Instagram is right now. I'm sharing my thoughts with everybody. So you guys don't necessarily have to have internal psychic power to know what I know, because I'm literally telling you, and in real time you're learning through my experience. You're also feeling, right? So as soon as we start hooking up our devices that track our heart rate and our emotional states, we're all going to start knowing other people's feelings. And social media is going to be technological substitute for what I'm discussing. And we're going to start having, well, we are right now, we have like the training wheels for Ascension. What is the purpose of all this? I don't even remember what the original question is, but the purpose of all this is that, we're all collective individuals strengthening our perspective. The point of individualism is to have an individual experience in a different body, in a different time, in a different space, so that the tree can experience being wealthy. The tree can experience being abused. The tree can experience all of the different experiences that there are to experience on planet Earth, because the tree is Earth itself. We are the tree of Earth. It's called Gaia. So Gaian theory explains that the planet is alive and we are the aspects of the planet. We are nature. Now I remember the original question, so I'm going back to it. The original question had to do with extraterrestrials. So extraterrestrials are beings who have ascended, and they can do things like travel through time or sense different times the way that we travel through space, right? So I mentioned the next two levels above us where we start to sense other people's emotions and sense their thoughts. Eventually, the need for individualism becomes not necessary, and collectively as a species, we start to disembody. And when we disembody, we become one organism that has no need for individual parts. But what will it have? So we become disembodied, we become literally enlightened, and we will still have the capacity or the memory, or if you guys think about what the word remember means, we will be able to remember, we'll be able to go into the time and spaces that we were once in as individuals. So once we merge as a tree, we can then have the memory, the remembrance, the ability to go back. Not that it's back because time is existing infinitely now, but we have the ability to go to the time and space, the dimension of the individual that lived in the 1980s and is you right now. Hi guys. Aloha. All right, so to sense an extraterrestrial means that we're at the vibratory capacity to witness them. And they can come into our dimensional field, or we could fall into theirs. And it might happen non-physically in a dream. It might happen physically in reality, because this itself is a dream. So just keep in mind that. Also, a lot of them are benevolent. They're not going to come in if you're going to be scared. So if you're looking to sense an extraterrestrial or what we call alien, then work on your ability to receive that. Work on your ability. If you woke up and you took a walk in the dark outside and all of a sudden a 12-foot bird mixed with humanoid figure is staring at you in the darkness, how are you going to receive that? Because they're not going to want to expose themselves to somebody who's not ready for it, and you're going to just flip out and potentially die. There's so much that we don't know about the experience of these beings. Primarily, that their emotional capacity is a lot stronger than ours. So I mentioned empath earlier, being able to sense somebody else's emotions. Well, that's what would happen if one of these beings come in. Their emotional state, their power, their knowing is going to be so strong that it's going to overtake your field. So you become them instantaneously. You know what they know, you feel what they feel. And if that's a surprise to you, it might scare you. And we could literally get scared to the point where we don't recover from something like that. So, once again, look into people that have witnessed these things, read the stories. If you're looking to sense, which I have, if you're looking to sense these other beings, then read stories. Yes, some of them might be made up. It's okay, guys. Fiction is, you can still integrate fiction. Everybody's trying to look for what's true, what's false. It doesn't matter. If it has been written down, if it has been said, then it is a reality. It has happened somewhere, even if it was in somebody's mind. So if we get out of the idea that something has to happen in this physical reality, it needs to be proven scientifically by our physical instruments in order for it to be true, then that's a limit. That's a limit of our current capacity, because back to a question from an hour ago, we are creators, we are manifestors, and a simple thought is also a creation. Just like a fiction movie is a creation that you can learn a lot from and you can integrate the lessons from. So don't be so limited trying to find out if something is, quote, true or false. It's just a function of what we feel is important as we travel through, at this limited perspective, through time and space as third density beings. What is awakening? So awakening is awakening to these powers. What creates more sperm as you get older? Your drive to mate. Your mindset of who you are. So if you're looking to mate a lot, go through the act of mating more, then you must act like somebody who's still in that phase of life. And the people that are naturally in that phase of life are 19-year-olds. What are 19-year-olds doing? They're vigorous. They're getting up. They're doing stuff. They're exploring. So that's what's going to create more sperm, more sex drive, is you being in that state. All right. How do I find life purpose? Speaking to our higher self. You are your higher self. You are your higher self. There's a word called desire, different than want. Want, etymologically, means to lack. So when I say I want a new car, you're basically affirming and manifesting and creating the fact that you do not have, that you lack a new car. And you will be creating that state of being of lack, of not having a new car. Want and desire are a little bit different. Actually, a lot different if you're aware. If you're aware or awake to the difference. Desire, etymologically speaking, means from the stars. So a desire is like a download. It's a premonition of a reality where, if we bring the car instance, where you have the car. It's a download where you actually can feel the tension between where you are now and that reality, where you have it. And it's a different frequency. It's an awareness that there's a reality where you have a new car, as opposed to an awareness that in this reality you don't and you lack one. And that's a big difference in terms of steering, back to about an hour ago as well, steering through reality. I was talking about your awareness that your hands are on the steering wheel, and whether you're going to notice and focus on the awareness that you lack something here, as opposed to realize that you have your hands on the steering wheel and you can steer towards that reality. Now, how do we do that steering? Well, we talk a lot about, if you go to any yoga class in the last 10 years, there's a lot about everybody should set an intention before class. That's real. Why did the teacher say that? Because through yoga, you're cleaning your system energetically. And your intention is you becoming aware of the desires, the frequencies that are being downloaded into your body, you becoming aware of them, and you steering through intention to that reality. Now, intention essentially means that there's infinite versions of reality, and you are attaching, you are in tension with the one that has signaled to you like a prayer, right? So you've got yourself in that reality signaling to yourself now, hey, pay attention to me. I'm here. I'm possible. If you can pick up that signal and intend, which then means using things like the power of trust to trust that you are that person, that you have the capacity to then act. So first you need to think, you need to train your brain. You get to train your brain to know that it's possible, which is a whole obstacle that we go through. It's a progression. Then we need to feel, we're blessed to feel that we can do it, that we are this person. And then we get to act in a capacity that allows the physical reality to form around us, because we are steering our ship with our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions into the reality where we got that desire. Desire means from the stars. Now, a lot of times, what does that mean? It means that we're a different person. A lot of times that means that, like, let's say you get that intention for a new car, if that's what is coming to you, that's going to require a different you. It's going to require a different mindset. It's going to require a different emotional state. It's going to require different actions. Most likely, the way that it happens in this reality, which it doesn't need to, as I also discussed 45 minutes ago, most likely it's going to happen in a form. Well, this is me putting intentions in you guys. So don't trust that what I'm saying, because I've proven to myself that you don't need money to get things in reality. Because I did experiments. If this is true, then it must mean that I can intend on desires without the need for money. But I'm going to say in the beginning that the training wheel stepped is that it's going to require a lot more money going out of your bank account to the car dealer's bank account. And that will require a change in your reality, might require more stress to make you more capable to earn more money. It's going to require a whole bunch of things, but just know that if you're going to steer out of your current reality, that there's going to be a breakup, period. And breaking up with yourself and what you're addicted to now is difficult. Think about breaking up with the person that you've been with for 3 years. Breaking up with yourself that you've known for the last 18 years, 10 years, 27 years. This is a lot more difficult. If you're not aware of the process, it can be difficult, and you might not even realize your addictions to your current self that you've been around and been playing for the last 17 years. A lot of times, in order to be in a different reality, it requires you to be different. And that's the whole experience of life. That was a good question, whatever that was. How do I find the life purpose, and how can we communicate with our higher self? I think that's what I just answered. How do we know we are starting people? I don't know what that means. I'm a psychic and tarot reader. Amazing. Agreed. Interdimensional. The remembrance of light. We are light. Yes, it's a remembrance of our nature of all. That's what we're doing here. When the student is ready, the teacher or alien appears. How do we find life purpose, and where can we communicate with our higher self? Is this the same question that keeps on being asked? I think I answered it though. You're good. My actual stone is called, I think it's called Dumoriartite. If you email me, if anybody DMs me, I can send them the exact stone. It was about, I think it was $350. But I'll send you the exact place where you can get it. This one has frequencies embedded in it. Really needed to hear this. Thank you. Do relationships need unconditional love? I feel most are conditional love. Well, that's because you're making it a condition of the other person to behave a certain way. The only the relationship that matters the most is the relationship that we have with self, because they are you. Essentially, our relationship with ourself is going to show up in our relationship with everybody else, because everybody else is self. The illusion that there are others is simply an illusion. And so it's easy to blame others, how they make you feel, but nobody's making you feel any way. All of your feelings, they don't come from other people, they come from inside you. And a lot of times we're sharing in this game with another person, and we both have this similar capacities, right? So they're playing in the state of anger as you are, or the state of shame. We both play games around that with each other. But just know that if you're being triggered or there's something coming up that you feel like you don't like, that's all happening within you, and it all is a question. Or as Gary from Human Garage was saying, and Jason, it's a clue. It's a clue to learn about yourself at a grander capacity through your relationship with what we call another person. And our ability to be aware, our ascension basically requires us to expand our concept of self. That's what ascension is we become the tree as opposed to just being stuck in the awareness of the leaf. And when we become the tree and we're thinking and we're relating to another person with awareness of we're a leaf and they're a leaf of the same tree, then we have grace. We have an ability, capacity to love greater. We will be unconditional because we will realize that we're both the same. And so the conditions that we have in a relationship are based on us viewing ourselves as leaves as opposed to the tree. And our ability to view ourselves as the tree means that we cannot have... Hold on, there's little kids, and I've got this wolf. He's tracking. He's looking like, what's going on? Solar, come on, be nice. We're going to come over here for a second, all right? Stay right here. Next question. Raw for governor of Cali. I thought about politics once. First, facial maneuvers. I really like everything you speak. Can you share how to avoid physical pain by focusing more on the soul? So physical pain is always going to be there, guys. There's another equation that I like that is, what is it? Suffering equals pain times resistance. Is that it? So the more that we resist pain, the more suffering we have. If we can bring the resistance down to 0, then we have pain, but pain times 0 equals 0. So we have 0 suffering, even though we have pain. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the question was how to reduce physical pain, and my answer was the pain's going to be there. So we cannot reduce pain. Pain is pain. Pain is neutral. What makes it more difficult to deal with is our suffering. It's our resistance to pain. Not saying put your hand on the stove and leave it there. Pain is also a signal, right? Pain exists in us so that we go in a different direction. So definitely notice the signal as a signal. So if we notice pain and we don't realize it's a signal, we're just going to resist it, right? And try to force others to be differently because it's causing us pain, and we don't realize it's a signal for us. And we keep our hand on the pan, the hot pan, and we yell at other people for turning the fire up, right? We blame others for making the pan hot, but we're the ones holding your hand there. So realize, first reduce the suffering by realizing you're holding your hand there, and that you then can take pain as a signal to remove the hand, go into a different direction, listen to your desires, follow, as your grandma said, follow your heart. That's you following your feelings, listening to your heart. Your heart can actually sense beyond time. It doesn't have the same restrictions as us. I'll try and find the studies and dissect the studies of them showing people different images, and they have them hooked up to machines that are measuring the heart, and the heart actually senses. So it's a random image generator. Some of the images are pleasant, some of the images are horrific, and the heart is able to sense the horrific images before the random image generator even picks the image. So it knows, the heart can sense beyond the veil of time. And so know that our heart has that ability. It also has neurons. So our brain has depending on where you look, it's got like 85 billion to 100 billion neurons. Okay, that's what we think of as thinking. Comes from our brain, 100 billion neurons. Our gut has 500, hold on. I'm walking, I'm trying to remember. Our gut has 500 million. So 500 million compared to 100 billion is 0.5%. So 0.5% of our thinking capacity, of a neurological capacity, comes from the gut. And the word neuron, the word neuron comes from the plant world, because the inside of the neuron looks like if you cut a plant open, you see those channels, but that's irrelevant. The heart has 40,000 neurons. Now, 40,000, I haven't done the math on that, but that's like 0.00, maybe 0.04%, or maybe just 0.04% of the thinking capacity of the head. But these are all significant capacities to feel, to be aware. And so the head brain is trying to make sensation of what the body's aware of. You guys can come here, I have space. Silver, come on. And then the heart is sensing the field around us, right? So the heart doesn't only have a capacity to travel through time, it has a capacity to travel through bodies because of field science. So the heart has a field, it's infinite, but some measurements can be 30 feet or 50 feet diameter around us. And in that field, the heart is controlling things like the blood going through the body. It's also sensing other fields around us, because the heart is not a simple pump. It doesn't work mechanically to pump blood through our body. It works through resonance, and the blood vessels spin through our body. Hello. Hi. Good. So, our heart is a resonance device, and through resonance, it can sense around us. So, back to evolved ascension of self, the heart has the capacity to sense other fields around us, other people around us, other feelings around us, because the heart is essentially the emotional center, the emotional brain of us. Come on, Solar. Going this way. Hey. All right. It's a lot to think about when I'm avoiding rocks. What are your go-to workouts to build muscle? Any recommendations on who to research on diseases, illnesses, bacteria? All right. I don't really have good answers for that. I have a question on the heart. Okay, what is it? What is it? Hafrakazatu. Why isn't any of this taught to us? It is. I'm literally telling you right now. Do you know that this stuff is not taught to us because it requires responsibility? If everybody knew that they're creating things, then what do we have? We have a bunch of kids with machine guns that are too big for them to even hold. They're going to shoot their foot off. All right? So when you hear about the stories of somebody... So I went through yoga lineage, and my teacher's teacher had to stand with his guru in a tree for 2 weeks, or stay outside the guru's house in a tree for 2 weeks before he learned like one technique that would, I learned in an afternoon. He would have to spend 2 weeks going through this, basically proving that he's going to be responsible with this technique. He was obviously less withholding. He gave the information freer than his guru did. But that's all the initiation practices, or the practices so that people aren't shooting their own foot off. Our public schools are the fact that we're in a reality that we don't get taught all of this stuff, and we have to figure it out and start asking ourselves the questions, right? When you're sitting in a tree alone, you're contemplating. There's a process of contemplation that gets to take place when you're just sitting alone in silence. You contemplate meaning, you contemplate your relationship to things, you contemplate your desires, and the differences between your desires and your wants. Us going through modern day life is the same thing as the mystery schools of the past. So a lot of us went through that during COVID, right? That's what COVID was. A lot of us weren't able to contemplate until we were sent home from school. We were sent home from work, and we started contemplating the last 18 years of our life. We started asking questions. We started uncovering the stuff that wasn't taught to us. And because of that, we then get to integrate this and teach it to our children and teach it to our friends who are ready, who are asking for it. And we then get to ascend to a greater level, because it isn't just, we don't just have a requirement, a responsibility to learn this stuff. We also get to teach it, because this stuff isn't readily available to others. So as we're on this planet now, we're here not only as students, but we get to teach, which is essentially an ascended version of a student. And that's what we are. We're here to learn, to experience with what we learn, integrate it into our life, and then integrate it into the lives of others, which right now I'm doing on Instagram. Some of you might do it tonight around a table. Others of you might go to a circle tomorrow or this weekend and share it with other people there. And some others of us will just change how they're being, and will teach it to others through example, through the process of just being different because of this information. And that's how this information travels through our planet nowadays. This is our planet ascending. We are the planet waking up to itself. I think that's a good place to end it. Bye-bye, everybody. Hit me up with any questions or any concepts that you'd like me to go over. Or, that way I can cater what I'm talking about to y'all. Take care, everybody.